Hello, everyone. My name's Paul Stevens, editor of Short Term Rentals, and welcome to this Rockstars 6.0 webinar on analysing the hottest vacation rental growth markets, sponsored by Price Labs and Minute. I'm the host for today's session, and there you can see some of the things that we're currently doing on short-term rentals, lots of content there. And now for a short video from one of our Rockstars series sponsors, Price Labs, a revenue management tool for the short-term vacation rental industry. So please keep your sound on mute and your camera off if you're not speaking. All of the details will be posted in the chat by my colleagues Joe and Danny throughout. So please do post any questions you have there yourself throughout today's webinar. We'll have a discussion lasting roughly around 45 minutes with our two speakers today before we can move on to an audience Q&A. And finally, a recording will be sent around to everyone after today's session. And now we have one more short video from our second Rockstars series sponsor. This is property monitoring company Minute.
Dear hosts and property managers, hosting can be difficult, we get it. Watching out for parties, making sure your guests have a wonderful stay, keeping neighbors happy, coordinating cleaning and security staff. We see all the work you do every day, and we want to help. Wouldn't it be great to have a co-host? Someone to welcome your guests when they arrive. Remind them about house rules when they're getting a bit too loud. Keep your home safe when they leave. We're Minute, the co-host that helps you care for your home, guests, and community. We come highly recommended. We're reliable and we're eager to help. So let us be your co-host today. With love, Minute.
So a big thank you to Price Labs and Minute for sponsoring this session and our webinar series. Let's get things started though by introducing our Rockstars lineup for today. And we're going to start please with Nino from Direct Booker. Take it away, Nino.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for a short introduction. My name is Nino Dubretic, CEO and co-founder of Direct Booker, Croatia-based company headquarters in Dubrovnik. Vacation rental management company, also IT provider, and looking forward for this webinar and for all the questions coming after our monologue or dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nino. Delighted to have you on this session. And next up, we have Sven, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Paul. Thanks a lot for the invitation. So
Pleasure.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Sven dos Santos. I'm German and the CEO and co-founder of StaysNet. Our company was founded 2016 and is based in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Before founding Stays, I used to run one of Latin America's biggest vacation rental companies, which I founded in 2004, and I sold it in 2016. So I have 12 years of experience as a property manager as well. At Stays, we provide an all-in-one solution for the short-term rental market, including a channel manager with preferred partner integrations to the main OTAs like Airbnb, Booking, and Despegar, among some others. Complete PMS system with task, user, and communication management tools, and an integrated white label and e-commerce for direct bookings. Furthermore, complete finance system and a lot of education. We started back in 2016, we started our operations in Brazil, where we achieved a market share of more than 50% between the channel manager users. And last year we started to expand and are now operating in 14 countries. But our focus at the moment is LATAM and especially the Mexican market. And in July, Decolar, also known as Despegar, LATAM's leading OTA, acquired 51% of our company and is helping us now to accelerate our expansion plans and to professionalize the vacation rental market in Latin America.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sven. I'm delighted to have both of you. So welcome to this webinar. Let's look at the context behind today's discussion as well. So we'll start with Nino's company, Direct Booker, based out of Dubretic in Croatia, which was acquired by Oyo for, I believe, what was quoted a $5.5 million transaction in May. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that with Nino shortly. While Oyo, the company's parent, Direct Booker's parent company, is reported to be set to go public in early 2023. And then Sven's company, Stays.net in Brazil, had a 51% stake acquired by Argentinian OTA Despegar in March. So we'll be asking him what this means for the Brazilian and LATAM markets moving forward. We'll be coming to this slide a little bit later on, but let's turn to Sven as well from Stays.net. Sven, you've already given us a little bit of an introduction to your background and to Stays.net, but could you just go into a little bit more depth, exactly, what you're trying to do at Stays.net, how you got into this business in the first place?
Of course. So first of all, at Stays.net, we are all-in-one solution for the vacation rental market, as I mentioned, but our value proposition goes far beyond that. The vacation rental market in Latin America is still very immature, couple of years behind markets like the US or like Europe, and only very few property managers are using a software like Stays.net. Most of them doesn't even know that solutions like ours exist. And that's why we are investing a lot in education. Today, our blog is the #1 online reference for vacation rental manager in Latin America. And here we share information, knowledge about all kinds of questions the owner or property manager might have. Things like how to make the best pictures, tax, legal issues, pricing, distribution, best practices in general, and so on. And this kind of consultancy is also part of our onboarding process and customer success strategy. And beside this, we are also producing an annual event called Stays Up, which is nowadays the biggest online event in Latin America. And here we are inviting many different interesting persons from the industry every year in order to share their knowledge with our audience and to help property managers to become better. So we just had the Brazilian or the Portuguese version in last September, and the Spanish version for the other LATAM countries will happen next year in March. And last but not least, we are also offering a complete software solution which helps property managers to generate more reservations with less effort and without human errors, to improve their operations, to keep their financials under control, and to provide the best experience possible to their guests.
Thank you, Sven. And I say we're focusing on Brazil, but actually we're going to be focusing on your business within Brazil, but also from a wider Latin American, LATAM context as well, before we move on to Nino and the Croatian market as well. But you've already mentioned a lot of interesting things there about you're now based in 14 countries, mainly across the LATAM region as well. You've just had this acquisition by Despegar, or at least the 51% stake earlier this year. And then the Stays Up event as well. I'm interested on a wider point about how Stays.net is seeking to professionalize the vacation rental market, whether that be in Brazil or LATAM, because as I understand it, you kind of see that being behind other markets currently in the world.
Yes, exactly. Would say, or at least behind the most advanced countries in the United States or in Europe. And yeah, our strategy is definitely not just providing a complete software solution, but education. So this is what that's our strategy on how to conquer the Latin American market, and I think we are doing pretty well. So it's definitely part of our strategy. All this educational part. We want to help property managers to become better hosts.
And I mean, you say that you do these stays up sessions, for example, in Spanish and Portuguese. What exactly do these property managers need educating about when it comes to professionalization specifically?
I think many basic things. So it starts in how to make good pictures of a listing, a distribution strategy, pricing strategy. So revenue management, for instance, is not so common in Latin America. So you have some properties using the same price the whole year over, or maybe with one or two high season adaptations. But all those things are not common practices in Latin America yet. So yeah, we are teaching them how to become better and how to get the best and the most out of their listings.
And from the work you're doing at stays.net as well, what sort of trends are you noticing again in Brazil or from a LATAM context? Because are there any specific markets that you're seeing traction in, or wider travel trends?
Sorry, didn't get it, Paul.
So what essentially are the trends that you're seeing in the LATAM market? Where are you seeing the traction coming about? For example, are Brazilians or LATAM travelers, are they traveling domestically? What are you seeing on a broader scale?
I think first of all, the pandemic changed the way of working. People nowadays, they take more vacations because today they can combine it with work. And many of the travelers, they opt for a vacation rental where they can just settle down and have all the comforts of their own homes, but in different locations. So staycation is an increasing trend in LATAM because it's an easy way to take a break without traveling too far. We also see a return to urban destinations. So COVID restrictions are over and people are traveling to the huge cities again, while people from the big cities are still traveling to rural areas. And yeah, last but not least, also Latin America is a very popular spot for local nomads, and Latin Americans love to travel. So we do not just see growth of international, but also domestic tourism.
And encouraging too that COVID, for example, is not having so much of a bearing on travel. The restrictions have mainly eased off in where you are and wider in the continent.
Yes, so the restrictions, I think, compared to Europe and the United States, they stopped earlier. Some countries like Mexico, they never really had them. So yeah, I believe that's one of the reasons why the market is growing faster than most of the other markets since the pandemic.
And also, I'm really interested to get your point as well, because when we were speaking last week as well, you mentioned some really interesting statistics involving the sort of growth in listings and bookings that you're seeing across Brazil and Latin America. Are you able to share some of those with us?
Of course, I can share some information. So yes, the market is growing very fast, and according to Airbnb, LATAM was the region with the highest active listing growth in Q1 and Q2 of this year, compared to the same period of 2019. Also, nights and experience booked at Airbnb in Latin America in Q2 this year were 42% higher than last year. Globally, the growth was only 25%, and compared to Q2 2019, the growth was even higher. In Latin America, it was 64% compared to just 24% globally. And another internal statistic, so at Stays, the average host revenue per listing was 75% higher in Q2 than in the same period 3 years ago. So 75%, I think it's a big number.
Yeah, and we can get on as well and talk a little bit about some of the reasons why you're seeing such shifts in revenue or in booking volume very shortly. But it also points to some of the challenges. You've briefly quoted this already, but some of the challenges that you're facing in the LATAM market, are you able to sort of delve a little bit deeper into some of the challenges that you're facing at Stays or other companies are facing if you're comparing it with, say, the European or the North American markets?
Of course, so not just challenging for Stays, but I think for any kind of company that wants to make business in Latin America. So first of all, as I mentioned before, it's still a very major market, not as advanced as North America or Europe, which involves a couple of other complexities. According to our researchers, only around 14% of hosts are using professional tools in Latin America, professional tools like a PMS or a channel manager. And in more advanced countries, big majority nowadays is using technology. We have big cultural differences in Latin America. So for instance, the Caribbean market is completely different to the Brazilian. The market in Peru is so different to the market in Argentina. So every country is a new challenge and needs its own go-to-market strategy. So you cannot treat LATAM as a whole. You must really look into each of these countries and adapt your strategy. And was another example from the product side, as vacation rental software. We need to have integrations with payment providers to allow our users to receive online payments and charge the credit cards of the guest. And in Latin America, we don't have a unified payment system like IBAN in Europe, which works the same way in almost all European countries. Here, we don't only have, or the countries don't only have different payment providers, but also quite different payment methods. Let me give you an example for Brazil. You might probably don't know it, but here the most popular payment methods are called Pix and Boleto Bancário. Yeah, I believe you never heard about it. So
not until our call before.
And also Brazilians, that's also different to other countries. Many Brazilians are paying their vacations in installments. So if you want to create value for your customers, you need to integrate a payment provider that offers all these payment methods. So yeah, every country in LATAM has its own particularities, and it's a big challenge to adapt your solution to all of them.
And again, I was mentioning it before this webinar as well. My own brother is in Brazil right now, and he's picking up on some of those peculiarities that you're mentioning with the payment providers as well. So it's interesting to get more of a second-hand perspective of what's happening out there and the changes that we're seeing between these different markets. But you know, we're talking about innovation within the market as well. There's this disparity or differences you're seeing between markets across the LATAM region. But are you noticing any companies specifically, property managers perhaps, who are actually integrating like innovative property management solutions? Is there anything that we can learn from these elsewhere in the world?
So yes, definitely. There are many innovating property management companies. So one example is Casai from Mexico, huge company, which recently also they started in Mexico and recently they entered the Brazilian market. We have Housey, which is one of our customers, and they are kind of reinventing the hospitality market with a kind of a subscription rental model, which allows you to stay in a Housey with all kind of plug and play services all around Brazil. We have Carpeting Homes, which is another StaysNet customer. They started to use our software with a very small amount of apartments, and now they are the market leader by far in the whole Northeast Brazil. So yeah, there are many innovative vacation rental companies out there in LATAM. Some of them are even venture capital packed, sometimes even in a very early stage. That's something new. We didn't see that, let's say, 6 years ago. So yeah, I can say that nowadays the vacation rental market in our region is attracting a lot of investments, and that brings growth and also innovation into the market.
And that must be encouraging, that investment that the region is receiving. Those companies, at least some of them that you mentioned, specifically Kasai or Housing, that they are attracting that investment. That must be encouraging to you. That investors are looking at this market now, and even despite some of those challenges, they're still seeing the potential of your market. And I guess another sort of thing I wanted to look at as well is we're mentioning the sort of demand you're seeing for accommodations, and I'll ask this question to Nino as well a bit later, but of course Brazil has seen the World Cup in 8 years ago. You've seen the Olympics as well, and I'm presuming that there's also some tourism campaigns. But how have you been able to, harness or leverage the demand that you're seeing from events like these? How is this, demand being manifested within stays?
Okay, so I had those experience with the World Cup and the Olympic Games before stays. At this time, I was still a property manager, but let me share the experience I made as a property management manager at Rio de Janeiro, especially with the Olympic Games in 2016 and the World Cup in 2014, with the final in the Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro. So I think once Rio or Brazil were announced as the host of those events, it was clear to all of us that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we started to prepare ourselves around 3 years ago, or 3 years before the event started, by increasing our inventory, by defining pricing, distribution strategies. We started to rent many long-term properties, so we furnished them. We made small remodel works and sub-rented or sublet them during those events. Yeah, and it was worth every second we invested. Was just crazy, to be honest. So during 1 month of the World Cup, we almost reached the revenue of a whole normal year. The same also happened during the Olympic Games. So if someone from venues in Canada, the US, or in Mexico is watching this webinar, so prepare yourself for 2026. It's really a huge opportunity. And yeah, nowadays it stays. We can see the impact certain events have for the local vacation rental market. So we just had a Rock in Rio event in Rio de Janeiro, and the city was completely sold out in the middle of September, which is normally considered a normal low season months. We see the same scenario also for smaller events like just the marathon or the Ironman in Florianopolis. So those small events, they generate a huge demand for the local vacation rental market. So I hope we can see more of them in the future.
And that's excellent as well, that legacy is being carried on from the World Cup and the Olympics as well, and that's being shown now in the sort of increase you're seeing in listings and bookings.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have got one more question, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that to the end as well, before we close off today's discussion. But I'll encourage our audience on the session today as well. If you've got any questions, Sven, that you want to ask in the audience Q&A, then please do pop that in the chat and we'll make sure to ask that before the end. So thank you very much, Sven. I'll give you a little break before we come back to the last question about what you see for the future as well. But Nino, we'll turn back to you as well. Again, you introduced Direct Booker, but could you just expand a little bit about what you're doing in Dubrovnik in Croatia, and yeah, essentially what you're doing to disrupt and enhance the short-term rental industry?
Yeah, thank you very much. So practically the story of Direct Booker is a long story short, as a roundabout and the roller coaster in the same. We started in 2010, before the Booking.com even give the opportunity for the short-term rentals to enter the website here in Dubrovnik. We entered when only hotels were on the website. So practically, direct booker started in 2010, looking on the direct reservations. There is the name, the direct booker, that is defined from our roots, and till the day today, we didn't invest anything in our website. It's just the moment that we started was the local domain was so strong, Dubrovnik area, Dubrovnik, or this, Dubrovnik, that. So practically we wanted to take that cake and started the direct booker. In maybe 3 to 6 months, we saw the market is changing to OTAs. And we completely changed our strategy. We left direct booker as a brand, but completely changed our strategy to property management in terms online management, and practically grew to 25% of the market of the Dubrovnik region, which is maybe the biggest tourist region here in Croatia. And during our development, we developed also the PMS, the channel manager, because we need it for our purposes, and we also developed the revenue manager model, the automatization of the invoices, of the communication. We developed everything because we need it for ourselves. And during the development, we also gave it to other property managers. Also, before we had the automatization, the market was on our, let's say, palm of a hand to take it, but we didn't have the automatization. So we were trying to find the best case scenario, how to scale without technology. So we came to the franchise business model, and we gave franchises throughout Croatia. We even had franchises in 13 countries. All together 27 franchisees, companies calling themselves our names as a brand of direct booker, having our technology, our know-how, and our support. We went so practically in 4 parallel directions. Direct reservations that were always stopped from the beginning. We had the property management, we had the PMS and channel management, revenue management, and we also had the franchising. Then we were trying to find something that will bring us on the next level, and I would say we found the perfect match with Oyo as an acquirer of our company, because now we are concentrated on the most important and best version of direct booker, and that is the property manager, the short-term rental manager in Croatia. We want to multiply the situation that we have in the Dubrovnik area. 25% of the market, it's not normal, but it came during the years with the word of mouth recommendation, little investment in marketing, and now what we are doing daily practically is just growing, scaling throughout Croatia. And just to put one wide roller coaster, we had, let's say, the peak of our development in March of 2020 with the shorties award. Over here is a statue. It was practically 9 days before the lockdown, and the roller coaster went down. And of course, we survived. Now we are again going up. So practically, it is still interesting story, and we are enjoying the development.
Yeah, it's I should say, for the benefit of the audience, I didn't ask you to put the trophy there, but yes, congratulations for God, how many years ago was that? 2 years ago already. Yeah, time absolutely flies. But you know, the award, now the acquisition by Oyo as well, is a sign of, you know, not just direct bookers growth, but Croatia as a market as well. I'm wondering how you perhaps view the impact that the Oyo acquisition has had on you as a business.
So practically what we benefit from as a company is a complete analytical team above us that is giving us right directions, because we were developing throughout the years with the tries, mistakes, methods. So practically now it's all clear, it's all in numbers. You can see what each time investment or money investment, bringing it back in every shape of it. So practically it's all clear and taking the peak of each time or money investment. So analytical team was something that we never would invest or even have the idea how to invest. It's practically the other company taking care of us. And that's the biggest advantage that we had. Also, we paired the technologies by OYO and our own technology. So practically, I would say myself, I went in four different directions, writing down the revenue manager model, thinking about franchises, thinking about development of other models, making acquisition on the other hand, of direct reservations on the third hand. So practically I was everywhere and nowhere. Now I'm doing what maybe I'm doing the best, that is explaining the homeowners why and how we can help them. So practically OYO, for me personally, bring the best of me for the company of the direct booker. If there is not somebody as OYO in this situation, practically I'm not on my peak. So I'm seeing it personally, I'm seeing it as a company that both of us are growing strongly here.
And the growth of direct booker, of course, coincides with a lot of changes that you're seeing in Croatia at the moment. For example, you're changing currency to the euro in January. And I mean, I was in Croatia myself in Dubrovnik just this summer as well. So I'm seeing a lot of the building work and development there. But how, obviously I'm coming in as a tourist, but how do you see it from your perspective? Is that perception of Croatia changing as a tourism destination, but also the growth of its real estate industry?
Yeah, we can see it, we can feel it really on the national level. Maybe from the moment the Croatia entered the European Union, which was the 1st July 2013, that practically foreign money start investing strongly in the real estate, not so much in the business, but in the real estate. Throughout now the years, we are now entering the Schengen zone. We are now getting the euros. Practically, we are now the same as any other country in the European Union. It is the perfect place to invest the money for the foreigners because it's an emerging market. You can even see why the OYO invest in Croatia. Among the all other Mediterranean countries, it is first invested in Croatia. So we can see it through growing number of the units on the booking.coms and Airbnbs. So practically we entered it in 2010 with 30 units on the booking.com. In the Dubretic now it's maybe 3,000 of them. So practically everybody is investing in the real estate. You can see it from, let's say, old houses getting renovated, all 100 years old. Then the high, let's say, rich people here investing in modern villas and everything. The old ladies are renting that room with a separate bathroom. So everybody is investing in tourism. So we are highly dependent of the tourism. We don't have the production. And in the COVID, we were pretty jeopardized by the situation because the national GDP was maybe 30% coming from the tourism, and the other 70% are relying on the tourism. The production and everything that we have is relying on the tourism. So it was a big problem with the money of, again, European Union, which saved us in this situation. We come out stronger when we see the situation, let's say, in the neighbor country, which is Montenegro, that are still not in the European Union. They didn't have the opportunity to take the EU funds for the situation of COVID, and we had in that moment direct booker as a joint venture ownership. We saw what is the difference for the companies, not only for all the countries, when you have or not have big name or Europe Union in this case behind you. So it is a great place for the invest the money, and the properties are. I'm stunned every day because I'm speaking with maybe 15-20 homeowners daily. What is on the market? So it's pretty wow, a daily moment for me.
That's fantastic. And I know you've got some interesting statistics that you can attest to these phenomena as well. But in terms of, and I asked the same question really to Sven in the LATAM and Brazilian market, but are there any specific trends that you're seeing as well that we should be aware of in terms of maybe the booking windows or the searches or types of traveler demographics that are coming for booking with Direct Booker?
Yeah, although we have as a direct booker properties inside Croatia on the Adriatic coast, in the suburbs or centers, so there is pretty guests coming from all around the world. The Western Europe, UK, and US are the main markets. What can be seen is, as Sven also mentioned, similar situation over here, that early bookings are coming strongly, comparing with the end of 2019 to 20, which was the higher numbers coming in history. So that is growing strongly. But again, COVID and this pandemic bring us booking window in totals more squeezer practically in our numbers. Our analytical team gave us the number, which we didn't have before. So practically Direct Booker is making 54% of all bookings in the last 30 days. So it's pretty last minute destination. And before, I recall booking.com gave us informations in general, not only for us, that it was 45 days booking window. So the COVID, the Ukrainian situation and everything bring us in a shorter booking window, as well as the fact that in top 5 filters, when you are using booking.com for Croatia accommodation, is free cancellation, which is not surprising at all, but it's important to know and to communicate to the homeowners when we are making an acquisition, because everybody is looking as a homeowner, not as a buyer. I want to save for reservation, stuff like that. So interesting maybe for audiences to know that in the top 5 filters when using the booking.com for Croatia are the free cancellation, it's a swimming pool. Now I have the link for that small pools, like above the ground pools that you can have for 500 euros. Just get to that filter. Guests will not be unsatisfied, but I need to push in that filter of the houses or apartments with the swimming pool, because then it's multiplied with 10 or 20 views. So practically a swimming pool, free cancellation, parking, it is the breakfast because of the hotels, and the pets. Whoever traveling with a pet, he need to use that filter.
I know we said as well, like obviously as the industry's growing in Croatia and becoming more professionalized too, you're seeing the actual types of quality of listings improve as well. So did you have some statistics from booking.com or something? It was testing that the quality of accommodation is going up in Croatia.
There were one survey or information or whatever. I recall that Croatia is second in Europe according to the review, average review for a country. So here in Croatia, if you are below 9, you are not having so wide season, or you cannot grow in the average daily rate. So practically 9+ is a standard, 8+ is okay property, and everything below 8+ it's jeopardized property, which is not normal. When I'm traveling throughout Europe, I see that practically it's not the same situation. Maybe here in Croatia, people still stick with the personal approach for the check-in and everything, giving everything that can have to give the guests, from the gifts, from the informations, for driving them for free, for everything, just to get them satisfied, which is, I suppose, not normal for other countries. It's a self-check-in and take the maximum of the quality accommodation. And what is interesting, the categorization for renting over here, it's 73% under the 3 stars. And now everything new and everything who can grow from 3 stars, it's the government gives some money to grow to 4 stars. So practically everything new that's coming, and these that are close from 3 to 4 are going to 4 stars and bringing the quality on the next level.
It's interesting though, you say you refer to the government as well. We're just seeing in Europe this week how the European Commission is adopting this proposal to kind of introduce these rules that will be pan-European to regulate short-term rentals, and of course that still has to go to votes across the 27 EU member states. But how would you say in Croatia specifically, how supportive of the government been towards the short-term rental segment, and if so, do you expect to see more regulations coming in the coming months or years?
This is now the true story that happened hour before the webinar. I got a call from the local media telling me, can I make a comment in the camera regarding the European Commission bringing regulations? I was like, no problem, just give me that article so I can read it and I will comment it. So I didn't know about that it's on the table. Wow. And it is. I read it hour before, gave 30 minutes before the webinar my thoughts on it on the local media. So what the idea is to make a registration of all homeowners, and that's okay, because for now you have many homeowners here in Croatia not paying the VAT. For the audience in Croatia, 95% of the homeowners are not in the VAT system. There is now very good VAT regulations to be a renter. You are paying, let's say, approximately 400 euro fixed to be a renter, and that's very cheap. So everybody is coming to be a renter. And now the hotel lobby is pushing to make some regulations, because the numbers of beds according across the Croatia now it's 50-50, or I think maybe even 55% to short-term rentals. And now hotels feels jeopardized and they want to limit it. So that is, from my perspective, the backstory of we need to register all the homeowners. Okay, for now, Airbnb will pay money to cousin account or to anyone's account. They don't even ask you. And you can make black money like that. And there is the homeowners practically, when I'm telling them, okay, we need to work together. After 20-30 minutes, we agreed about everything. And I tell them, I need to pay the money to the homeowner who is registered to be a homeowner. Oh, no, I'm blocked. You need to pay it to my cousin or wife or whoever. And that is the problem, because when they are working with OTAs, they will pay the money wherever they want. Now, the European Commission will bring that on the level, and that's great. But after that, the question is how strong it will hit the homeowners. Would it be some regulations, as I think it's in Venice or Paris, where they will limit it on 90 days to rent or something? That would be crazy. In a seasonal destination like Croatia, where 90 days are maybe only 90 days that somebody is renting, everybody will come from 15th June to 15th to September, and then you will not have offer in out of season. So it will be interesting to see what will be the final results of that decision. But for sure, now somebody is not paying VAT on the commission of the booking.com on the Airbnb. It needs to be paid. The homeowners are like, I heard about that, but the government doesn't ask me anything. So when they ask, maybe I will start paying. So there is need for that. But after that, I'm afraid what's coming.
And yeah, that's definitely something that we can continue the conversation on as well, and something that we're covering on short-term rentals too. For the last bit of this section as well, Nina, I wanted to ask, again, a similar question to what I asked Nino before. How are you with Direct Booker? Are you sort of partnering with tourism campaigns, or how are you looking to boost your supply or enhance your profile more generally?
So generally, when we started, word of mouth was the only way how we grow, because without technology, we were possible to grow as slow as we can. Now we have like only social media that we are investing in, because the return is so high that we need to put it off every maybe week. We put it on and then 1 week it's off, because daily we have like, I don't know, 30, 40 inquiries throughout Croatia, because we were not on all market till now. From the new year, we opened the whole Croatia by ourselves. It was throughout franchises and everything. Now we are like a new player over there, so everybody wants to hear from us who we are, what is the business model, and practically we have 40 people over here fighting for 3,500 units, and we cannot grow unlimited. We still need to have people for supply, for the onboarding, for the account management, and we are signing 3 properties daily, which is pretty good without any new employment in this year that it is done.
That's excellent, Nino. So we've explored there the Brazilian, LATAM and Croatian markets. Thank you there for your thoughts, Nino. But there's one other market I wanted to focus on a little bit too, and we've got a couple of slides I want to bring up. So Saudi Arabia is actually one of the hottest vacation rental growth markets that we're seeing in the Middle East right now as well. That's being shown across many of the data sources that we're looking at to inform our stories. So just want to explore this market a little bit more whilst we have some time remaining. We have some stories here about the industry in the region, and we're starting off with a Jeddah-based property management company called Mabat, including the establishment of their business in 2019 and its $2.4 million series seed funding round last August. And I think this is part of a wider trend as well that we're starting to see, not just in Saudi Arabia, but across this Middle East and EMEA region as well. So in our next slide as well, we have 2 more companies worth highlighting, including the peer-to-peer vacation rental marketplace called Gatton, which closed a pre-Series B investment round only back in April, and a Dubai-based holiday home platform called Luxury Explorers Collection, which expanded into Saudi Arabia in June. So again, this news kind of fits into a larger trend that we're seeing, and one of the big things in Saudi Arabia at the moment is this Saudi Vision 2030 blueprint. It's something that we're probably going to hear a lot more in the coming years as well. And it's a strategic framework that was created by the Council of Economic and Development Affairs to reduce the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's dependence on oil, diversifying its economy, and also developing a number of its public service sectors, which of course include infrastructure and tourism, hence the investment that we're starting to see in this region. And on top of that, at the bottom, you can see how the kingdom has set a target of welcoming 100 million tourists by 2030. They'll also be hoping, of course, to capitalise, we've already mentioned, on the demand fueled by visitors for this month's FIFA World Cup in Qatar as well, where travellers will be coming from all different corners of the world to support their countries and staying in neighbouring countries and across the Middle East to fly in or travel by different means into Qatar. Finally, I want to bring up a couple of statistics I think that are well worth highlighting too. According to Statista, the vacation rental segment in Saudi Arabia is projected to grow by 4.85% by 2026. That's resulting in a market volume of $61 million. So interesting comparing that with the speakers in our markets, all in different parts of the world that we've already explored in this session. Also in that same period, again by 2026, the number of people staying in vacation rentals is expected to grow to 5.1 million users over the next 4 years. So it's a market that we wanted to bring up with you. These are by no means necessarily the highest growing markets in the world, but today, as you can understand, we've picked out 3 markets that we think are well worth keeping an eye on in future months and years that many of our audience will be interested to look on at. So that sort of concludes that section on Saudi Arabia. But if we have any audience questions, now is definitely the time to ask them. But I'd also like to ask Nino and Sven a question each before we finish as well. And I'll start with you, Nino. Sorry, with you, Sven, as well, going back to our first section. And it's basically, why do you think Brazil or Latin America market is built for sustainable long-term growth moving forward?
I would say, in general, Latin Americans love to travel. Even those who cannot afford international travels will always find an interesting, cheap place somewhere close by. Also, many companies, they changed during the pandemic and they are now working 100% remote, which allows their employees to work from everywhere. So it gives them an opportunity to travel around working. And we have so many beautiful, different and interesting places in Latin America. So it's kind of a gift from Mother Earth, which will always attract domestic and international tourism. Also, the infrastructure improved a lot, especially in Brazil. Many airports were remodeled. We are seeing a lot of investments in hotel and tourist developments. Some buildings are being constructed just for the short-term rental purpose in the future. So in general, I would say there's still some space to improve things, of course, but I would say that we are very well prepared for long-term growth here in Latin America.
Thank you very much for your insights, Ben, and really interesting to get those unique perspectives that you're bringing to the session too. Same question to you, Nino, as well. Why should we be excited about the future of Croatian tourism? Why is it built for long-term growth in short-term rentals or real estate or more widely?
Yeah, so practically when you're looking on the map, Croatia is the closest to the Mediterranean Sea or warm sea to the Western Europe, to the North Europe. So the growing number of the direct flights, the highway, even the Dubrovnik region now it's connected for the first time in history with the bridge, with the rest, by the land, with the rest of Croatia. And the climate here is completely different even from the inside of the Croatia. So we have the 2 stories. We have the continental climate and continental tourism during the winter, during the autumn and everything. And then you have this Adriatic climate, which is a Mediterranean climate. And even now in November, we are going out without any jackets. It's 16 to 23 degrees every day. 16 is the lowest that we are going. So practically, even in Dubrovnik, now the only thing that is missing is connecting, let's say, all major flights that are going throughout the years are finishing now at the beginning of November. But this winter festival, which is in Dubrovnik, making the Dubrovnik old town as a fairy tale story. You can Google it, Dubrovnik Winter Festival. Just look at that pictures. There is no normal people that didn't want to come to Dubrovnik when they see that. And we are just missing November. And now I am tourist council of Dubrovnik town, and everybody who is asking for money to invest in some strategic or private events are getting money if it is out of the season. So the only, I would say, challenge for Croatia is spreading the season wider than, let's say, starting 1st April, ending 1st November. And all money reinvested from the tourist board, even let's say to the airplane companies, they are practically asking to fly longer, but they are asking the money. And that is the best investment that we are doing it as a council, because if you want to fly throughout November, okay, you will get the higher amount. If you want to make event in November, December, January, okay, you will get the money. you want to make event in August, there is no money for you. So practically just spread out the season is the only challenge, and we are going in that direction.
And even in the UK at the moment, we're seeing similar temperatures of like 16, 17. This is very, very mild by even our standards here in the UK. But thank you again for your insights, Nino, and to Sven for your contributions throughout the session as well. It's been much appreciated and very interesting to learn about new regions on our webinar as well today. So before we conclude today, we've got just a couple of slides to run through very quickly. So we're actually back next Tuesday, the 15th of November at 4 p.m. GMT for our next Rockstars webinar. That's called Tackling the Talent Shortage, the Path to Recruiting and Retaining Hospitality Superstars. So we'd be delighted if you could join us then, and you can sign up in the chat now as well. Tickets are also now available for our Recharge event in Lisbon as we bring together urban innovators at the cutting edge of hospitality, real estate and living. It takes place on the 23rd and 24th of January 2023. Again, hope you can join us there. For opportunities to work with us, please do contact my colleague Katie, and she'll be very happy to have a conversation with you about some of the opportunities available. A big thank you again to Price Labs and Minute for sponsoring our Rockstars series and session. We're going to keep the session open just for a couple of minutes. If you want to jot down any more details concerning our speakers today, if you want to ask them any questions as well, their contact details are in the chat. Feel free to contact us via our own various channels on the screen now. I'd like to thank you all once again. Big thank you to our speakers, everyone who tuned in today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, everyone.